years ago through this very church. At the time, we were worshiping downtown in a small converted retail space, and the Valentines were facilitating a recovery ministry known as PATH, which stands for Peace from Addiction Through Healing. In his goodness and mercy, God placed them in my life years before I even knew I would need what they were offering. But then one fateful day, I found myself in crisis, picked up the phone and called. They answered that call. And my life and that of my family hasn't been the same ever since. To be honest, when Lisa so graciously asked me to offer this tribute today, I was honored, but I was also a bit overwhelmed. Charles led a big life, and I kind of imagined that my notes might be as long as a CVS receipt. Thank you. And so with the help of the Holy Spirit, I will reflect on the man so many of us were blessed to call my good friend, Charles. Spoiler alert, it's a love story. It is said that people who have suffered greatly sometimes have the capacity to love deeply because they don't want others to have to suffer the way they did. Lisa gave us the backstory on his book, The Man in the Tombs. To me, the very best part of Charles' story is actually the end of that book, because it's a new beginning, the beginning of a new chapter of his life. It became an epic of redemption, the story of God's amazing grace, transformation, liberation, and miracles. Jesus showed his great love, reaching out to Charles in his time of need and setting him free. The day the Lord knocked on the door to Charles' heart and he answered yes, was the day that Charles discovered his true purpose. He was healed and filled with goodness and a spirit of service which allowed him to spend the rest of his days selflessly helping others, particularly those suffering from mental health and substance abuse disorders. Together, Charles and his beautiful wife, Lisa, my friend, created the Valentine Foundation, which provides sober living homes for men and women in recovery, showing people the way to freedom and hope through Jesus Christ and the wisdom of the 12 steps. Generous and kind, Charles had a street ministry and could often be found handing out sandwiches with the side order of the gospel to the homeless here in New Jersey and Florida. I don't think it's a coincidence that we associate the name Valentine with hearts and love. When I was a little girl attending Sunday school, we would sing a simple hymn, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." The lyrics taught us the importance of sharing one's faith and being a light for others. Throughout our years of fellowship and mentoring, I learned that Charles lived by those words. He had a powerful faith and was one of the most humble, non-judgmental, and compassionate people I've ever known. He did have the ability to be firm, but in a gentle way that always made me feel safe. We occasionally enjoyed a good laugh, or in Charles' case, it was a grin with a twinkle in his beautiful eyes as he pointed out my stinking thinking and my ability to project. Anyone else relate? He introduced the concept of setting healthy boundaries and showed me how to begin to accept and love myself, not because of who I am, but because I am a child of God and Jesus already paid my debts on the cross. Charles played the guitar and kept a poster in his office, which I still remember. It read, "He not busy being born is busy dying." From It's All Right, Ma, I'm Only Bleeding by Bob Dylan, circa 1965. Charles had learned the importance of living each day to its fullest and the foolishness of making a plan that didn't include prayer. The lyrics are thought to be a call to action, urging us to embrace life and actively participate in it, rather than passively drifting towards death. Romans chapter 8, verse 1 teaches us, "I do not have to linger in this valley of spiritual desolation. There is no condemnation for those who are in Jesus Christ." Through the PATH ministry, I learned that conviction is a gentle prompting from the Holy Spirit, while condemnation is the oppressive, destructive work of the devil, aiming to drive individuals away from God. Charles embraced the sayings of AA, dedicated his life to right living, and took this to heart by sharing the good news. To Lisa's point, he also appreciated a handsome new shirt and a good hot cup of coffee. Frequently, I find myself telling others that my friend Charles Valentine used to say, "The person I have the most trouble with is the person I see in the mirror every day." I try to stay out of my mind. It's a scary place. You could get mugged in there, and then he would laugh. On the subject of sadness or depression, he would counsel, "You can visit for a little while each day, but you can't take up residency." Or, "I can be depressed tomorrow, not today." To me, some of his most powerful statements were, "Let me think about that." Well, that's one way to look at it. Or just a simple comment, "Really? Really? Really?" My personal favorite is, "Tears are a river that take us where we need to go." And so in closing, I think Charles would be pleased if I shared this prayer for recovering alcoholics, as I think of him every time I pray it myself. "God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help, of thy power, thy love, thy way of life. May I do thy will always." For me, it is a joy and a sadness to be here today with old friends and new faces too. Fitting that we are in this holy place during Lent to remember Charles and reflect on a life well lived. I'm pretty sure when he passed through the gates of heaven, he was greeted with a hearty, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And it is a comfort to know that he is at peace. Lisa, my family, and I extend our deepest sympathies to you, to your family and loved ones, and all of our close friends. Charles truly was beloved by many, and while his physical presence will be missed, his legacy will surely live on through his actions and thousands of lives he impacted in such a positive way because of those 500 individuals that he touched. And I'm one of them. We all have vines on that branch, right? We're not alone. So there are thousands of lives that he changed. I say to him, thank you for sharing and thank you for your service, my friend. Until we meet again, my prayer is that God will continue to bless and comfort all of us during this momentary season of grief. Easy does it, one day at a time. Let go and let God.